What's up guys? Welcome back to David's feed. In this episode, we go in search of the deadly Red Headed Krait and find something none of us could have expected.
So we've just found something really incredible.
Truly incredible.
Tonight we've come to a very special lowland forest area which has a lot of streams and rivers with lots of big rocks. It is ideal habitat for the Red Headed Krait, which is what we're here to see tonight. It's a very rare snake, so our chances of finding one are probably rather slim, but Rupert behind the camera has found a number of them here before in the past.
Well, this is a little place I like to call home. I spent probably more time in this forest than anywhere before, and it's just amazing to be back. And I've got a plan. I'm not sure if it will come to fruition, but we've got 2 nights to try, and I hope we're going to find our target species. So let's head off.
Unfortunately, it's not always all that easy getting into the herping spots we're after. We're cutting through a small piece of forest now to get down to the river.
And I think I've got ants on me.
Yeah, I had a couple ants and a bunch of leeches on me a moment ago too.
The problem with wet lowland forest, prime habitat for cool snakes and prime habitat for blood-sucking parasites.
The plan was to hunt along the larger streams, where I felt like the kraits are most active. The rich lowland forests here are amazing for reptiles, like this young Asian vine snake which was almost yellow in coloration. It wasn't long until we saw our second snake, although this snake wasn't quite of the size and stature of the Red Headed Krait. Okay, quickly, before we get into the action, please drop the video a like. It really supports the channel and we appreciate it greatly.
Alright, so we found a snake. Not quite the snake we're looking for. This is the flowerpot snake, or Indotyphlops braminus. This is actually one of the most widespread species of snake in the world, occurring on almost every continent. But they're very rarely seen because they are fossorial, meaning they live under the ground and only come out to the surface on nights, sometimes after rain when the ground gets flooded. They feed primarily on ant and termite eggs and larvae. And another interesting thing about these is that they're actually male and female, and they don't need to mate in order to reproduce.
Parthenogenic.
Exactly. They will produce eggs without the need of another one, and the eggs will then hatch into perfect little replicas of the adults. This is a fully grown specimen. As hatchlings, they're about 1/4 of the size. I've seen one before. And they're very weird little snakes because their eyes are somewhat underneath the surface of their skin. You're probably not going to be able to see. It's very small, but they are actually snakes, and they do flick their tongue just like any other snake would too. It's really crazy how much these snakes resemble earthworms. When I saw it at first, I was almost sure it was just a worm, but then I saw the shape was a little bit off, and I took a closer look, and sure enough it was one of these. Really interesting little snake, and cool that we got to see it. Alright, so we've arrived at the water. Slippery. And these sort of jungle, stream, rocky areas are ideal habitat for Red Headed Kraits, and of course other species such as the Malayan krait.
Perfect habitat, man.
With our target in mind and our hair fixed, the hunt could properly begin. After a little while, we spotted a small snake moving in the leaves and thought for a second that we may have found a krait.
Alright, so down here is a small little wolf snake, another one. As you can see, he's biting me as hard as he can. At this size, they're not very powerful yet though, so their bites don't really break the skin. But you can see, they definitely do try.
A lot.
A lot, yeah.
And when they get big, they got some pretty sharp teeth.
Yeah, I've been bit by some larger ones, and those definitely bleed quite a bit.
Firstly, tell me how we distinguish this from a Malayan krait.
Oh yeah, when they're small like this, they can look relatively similar to the Malayan krait. but if you look along the spinal ridge, these guys lack the enlarged scales, which are hexagonal shaped along the spine, and pretty much that's a sure way to tell them apart, because
Just wind, I
based on
think.
the color, it can sometimes be a bit dodgy because, of course, colors and patterns are highly variable. So you might get a krait which looks like a wolf snake, or a wolf snake which looks like a krait. But the scale arrangement is obviously not variable, so that's one sure way to tell.
The typical sort of look to these guys is with the white sock of the head and nowhere near as many bands as a krait.
Look at that. Cute little snake.
All right, let's let him go.
All right, let's just let him crawl right back off into here.
Back on the hunt, we navigated our way upstream, checking all the rock cracks and streamside vegetation for that iconic flash of red and black. Soon, we reached the base of an extremely loud waterfall. Through the mist it was creating, I saw a confusing mixture of red on the rocks on the opposite bank. I wasn't sure what I was looking at, so David came to take a closer look. And then it dawned on us what we just found.
All right, so we've just found something really incredible.
Truly incredible.
We found 2 red-headed kraits in the process of mating. I'm gonna sneak up and see if I can grab a photo of them.
Make sure you shout, boss, because it's loud here.
Yeah, it is.
I'm going to
really
creep up
loud.
as well. We're trying not to disturb them. We've been very, very careful. But just over here, I'll just show you where they're locked first. And there's one. And the one on the right is pretty big as well. You can see the head down there. We have found what we're actually looking for this whole time.
Yes. And 2 of them at that.
2 of them. And this is the rarest of all the kraits by a long shot that you get in this part of Thailand. You can see that David is really wants to capture this, but we're trying just to keep our distance. I'm going to zoom in to show you the amazing head of the one, where they're locked in mating, and then the head of the second one is hidden in there. The one on the left seems much more shy than the one on the right, but wow, what an incredible observation. Look, this one's... The one on the left seems to be easily spooked.
Yeah, the one on the left, the small one, would probably be the male, and this large one over here, I'm guessing is the female.
And this is your first time seeing this species,
Yeah,
right, David?
my first time while they're mating, and the first time seeing the species in general.
And how many krait species have we seen now on this trip?
3.
All 3.
Krait species, which is all of the ones you can find in this part of Thailand.
And this is really the icing on the cake, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're definitely going to get spooked out by this, but I'm trying just to keep my distance. What size do you reckon the one on the right is?
The one on the right is about 1.3 meters, I think. 1.4.
And the one on the left is like 1.1, 1.2 maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, this one's reversing in.
Film how they're like shaking their tail.
And I took the guys to this spot specifically to see this species. I'd seen 3 here in the past, which is insane, and apparently this place is probably the best place on earth to find these, because I just brought that to a total of 5 on our first night of searching. I mean, I don't believe it. And they're mating. We didn't just find 1, 2 mating. I'm speechless. I don't know what to say. I don't even...
It was really difficult to film due to the noise from the waterfall and the fact we didn't want to get too close to the mating pair. That said, just being there to witness something this rare in the wild was an incredible experience. So unexpected.
David's just run off to alert the guys because they were at a different spot, but up where we are we have absolutely no service at all. So I'm just keeping watch of them, and by watch I mean sitting here on the rock by the waterfall and trying just to check on them every few seconds. But our key aim here is not to disturb them. We really think it's important that this species breeds here, and for us just being able to observe this incredible sight is enough as it is. Okay, so now the guys have got here. David had to run down the road to get them, and when we've got back I sat guard and sat round the corner so as not to disturb them, but what we presumed was the male has gone under a rock in the background and dragged the big female with it. But as you can see, the big female in all her glory is still out for show, and you can see by the shaking in the background that mating is very much still going on, and it seems like these guys are about to fall into the water down there. But
despite the risk of falling in, we passed the video down where there was a perfect view of the two snakes. This resulted in so much amazing close-up footage of this once-in-a-lifetime observation. While I won't show most of the footage here, I'll highlight the key moments and allow you, the viewers, to watch this rather strange event unfold. As you can see, the smaller individual on the left was very skittish and always tried to hide away from the light of our torches. Some snakes just have naturally different temperaments and personalities, but this could also be because it felt more vulnerable due to its smaller size. The large one on the right seemed completely unbothered by our presence. When the smaller one had its head in darker areas, it clearly felt more comfortable and stopped moving as much. This allowed us to better capture the details of these snakes mating for a while. However, we felt like we hadn't had a good look at this individual the entire time, so David shifted the camera around to get a relatively close-up shot of this one's head. Moments later, the smaller one started moving into the safety of a nearby rock crack, bringing its partner with it in a somewhat comical display. This gave us a great view of the large individual in all its glory, which clearly measured around 1.5 meters, or 5 foot to you Americans. The view was fleeting though, as the head soon disappeared into the rock crack, and it was apparent that our experience watching this was over. They continued mating within the safety of the rocks besides the rushing water, so we decided to leave them be and go revel in our success. Some of you might remember from a previous video of ours that we caught another Red Headed Krait. Well, this actually occurred just a few days after we found the mating pair. Hereby, let's revisit that incredible encounter, although it will be almost entirely unseen footage, not used before.
And you were really hoping to find one of these, weren't you?
Yeah, I was a bit disappointed because the last ones we found, they were obviously mating, so we didn't want to disturb them. So I didn't actually get to handle them at all, or get any photos or video of us handling them. So this is really cool.
And you really like to handle snakes, don't you? It's like crucial to your experience.
Yeah, I mean, to me, a big part of what brings me joy about herping is getting to like handle and interact with the animals.
And this species is typically quite docile as it is.
Yeah, these are one of the calmest krait species there are. As you can see, he's making no effort to try to bite me, he's just curious at this point.
But don't be misled, you do not want to get bitten by one of these.
There's no anti-venom for these, and these are still, drop for drop, one of the most toxic snakes in Thailand.
And we've been lucky with these so far. I know a lot of people who
have been searching for these a lot and didn't find them. Red Headed Krait, Bungarus flaviceps. But man, is this a cool snake to find in the wild. I've seen a few of these in captivity before, and for a long time it's been my dream to find one in the wild. So when we found those mating pair, of course I was super excited, but also a little bit disappointed that I didn't get to play with them. So really sweet that we got to see single one that wasn't in the process of mating.
And would you say this is a male?
Yes, this one has a very long tail, and also by the size, he's a bit smaller. Males generally are not as big as females.
I feel
Not
like the
as
males are a little bit like slimmer.
Yeah, the males, they're like a bit more skinny and scrawny looking compared to the females, which is because the females, of course, have to be a lot larger to facilitate the eggs.
All right, can you tell the viewers about our theory about how rare these guys are?
So these are notorious for being one of the rarest and hardest to find krait species in Thailand, but we found 3 within the past week or so. So I think they're not actually that rare, they just only live in a very specific type of habitat. And if you can find that habitat, you're very likely to find the species if you put the hours in.
Yeah, and the mountain range that we've been searching on
Is really good for them.
This is my 6th one on the mountain range alone, so that indicates that it's a good spot. They seem to be like totally reliant on their color scheme to ward off predators. There's no aggressive behavior from them.
Exactly. This is amazing. This is amazing. Just look at that head. It's so ridiculously beautiful.
So red. And now for the question that everybody wants answered.
Yeah.
How do you distinguish this species from the blue coral snake?
Well, that's a question that I personally find funny because apart from the mild similarity of them having a red head and tail, I find them to be very different actually. If you just look at the general shape of the snake, you should immediately be able to tell that this is a krait and not a coral snake, because the coral snakes are like shoelaces basically. They're just really long, really thin, and the head isn't distinct from the body at all.
Spaghetti snakes.
Exactly, whereas a krait, it's firstly the body shape is very triangular. You can see he has that raised ridge along the spine and then flatter ventrals, so it's like a triangular cylinder, if that makes any sense. And if you look from the top, you'll see that the head is actually very distinct from the neck, and coral snakes just don't have that.
Yeah, and I doubt most people would get the chance, but if you flip the snake upside down, this one has a white venter.
Yeah, I'll try to show you guys that right now. You see they have this creamy, light ventral side.
Whereas the blue coral snake has red
Exactly.
all down the ventrals from head to tail.
This one is only red underneath the tail.
A lot of them have white spots on the vertebral ridge.
Yeah.
Hard to show up because they're so reflective.
Especially on juveniles, these white spots are very prominent.
Yes. And on the Bornean adult specimens, they have very defined white spots.
Alright, let's let him go. We've had enough of him. Goodbye, you beautiful.